Rise up, Falcons fans! It's time for a brand new season and brand new episodes of The Dirty Bird Talk, my official Atlanta Falcons podcast, hosted by yours truly, Goofy Man. Die-hard Falcons fans run this podcast just like myself. I feed off of all of your comments, all of your discussions, everything you have to say. I take it into account and I put it into this podcast. As I like to say, this is an Atlanta Falcons podcast from a diehard fan, ran by diehard fans. So let's just get right into it. It's Falcons football season. Nothing else needs to be said other than that. So diving right in, we're just going to go right into it. This is going to be an offense-heavy podcast. I'm going to talk mainly about the offense. And then tomorrow, I'm going to talk about the defense. But today, it's all about the offense. First, I just want to go through recent transactions, tell you guys who the Falcons have signed, tell you guys who the Falcons have cut. Then we can start talking about the nitty-gritty stuff. The QB position battle, the wide receiver room and the depth, who's going to get that fifth receiver spot, the running back room, who's going to become the third running back. All of it, whatever you can think of, we're going to dive into it. It's the first episode, so we got to start out strong. Why not start out talking about the offense? So let's just get right into it. Just going through the transactions here. Falcons have signed running back Trey Sermon, third round pick out of San Francisco, or by San Francisco a couple of years ago, out of Ohio State. He was only active for 4 games with the Pittsburgh Steelers last season, but he did have 2 kick returns for a grand total of 51 yards. Maybe something to note there. Maybe we'll see him returning some kicks in the preseason games, but ultimately he's going to be competing in the semi-crowded running back room between Nathan Carter, Cash Jones, and Tyler Goodson for the team's third running back spot. Now, who do you think is going to get that third running back spot? My money's on Tyler Goodson. I think that it's pretty clear, cut and dry. I mean, Nathan Carter's obviously been with the Falcons. Cash Jones, rookie out of Georgia, shown some promise. I don't know if Trey Sermon's going to really push for this third running back spot, but we'll see. That's why we have training camp. That's why we have preseason. So super excited to watch it all. Speaking of preseason, it's coming up. It's Friday. Denver Broncos versus the Atlanta Falcons. Of course, I'm going to be there. Yeah, I might have moved down to Florida, but guess what? I'm still a season ticket holder. This is my second season in a row having season tickets at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I had them at the Georgia Dome from 2008 to 2014. A lot of great memories there. So I'm really hoping for some more good memories this season. But ultimately, that's why we got to talk about this stuff to see if we can have a good season or not. So let's keep going with the transactions. Falcons released offensive tackle Jack Nelson. Now, this is just really unfortunate timing for the guy, and I feel bad for him. But he was released with an injury designation. Obviously, you thought with the right tackle position, there could be a debate as to, I guess, who's going to start at right tackle. Obviously, Caleb McGarry retired in the offseason due to injury complications, and wish him all the best, nothing but the best. But you thought Jack Nelson might have been able to throw his name in the hat for at least competition to be that starting right tackle. But of course, injuries, and Falcons got Juwan Taylor and Wanya Morris. Well, don't worry. We're gonna talk more about the right tackle position actually at the end of the podcast, so stay tuned for that. But sucks for him. It was a time for him to shine, obviously, because like guys I just mentioned, Juwan Taylor and Wanya Morris were also injured, and Jarrell has been injured. So I mean, anyways, long story short, Jack Nelson out of here. But Falcons did sign on the opposite side of the ball, defensive end Cameron Sample. So it's just a really good depth signing, obviously with the Jalen Walker injury. Not going to dive too hard into the Jalen Walker injury other than it sucks. It's unfortunate. Obviously one of the Falcons' best players from a really good defense last year, so it just sucks to put it bluntly. He was released by San Francisco last week. He did post 17 tackles and 2 sacks with the Cincinnati Bengals last year, so hopefully he can provide some production for the Falcons this upcoming season. Obviously, they're going to have to replace James Pierce Jr. as well because he's got a suspension coming, unfortunately. My guess is going to be it's right around the 8-game mark. Actually, I think it's going to be 8 games, roughly half the season. I don't think they're going to sweep that under the rug. But hey, remember, you can. No, I'm not even going to say it. You could do far worse and get suspended for less. But, anyways, he's probably going to get about 8 games. So I like that signing there. I don't think this is another Morgan Fox situation in which, we sign a guy for depth. It's like, okay, yeah, sure, he's probably going to make the team. And then, of course, he gets cut during the preseason. So I don't think that this is this type of situation at all. I think Cameron Sample will be on the 53-man active roster and actually provide the Falcons with some good snaps. Maybe very meaningful snaps. We'll see. But speaking of the defensive line, the Falcons have also signed defensive tackle Marlon Tuipulotu. Got to make sure I say that name right. Of course, he is brothers with Tuipulotu. And yeah, not a crazy signing here. 6th-round pick by Philly in 2021 out of USC. Only played 5 games the past couple seasons, 2 seasons with the Chiefs. Really just a depth signing to compete for a roster spot. Obviously, we're always looking to bolster up the interior defensive line to go along with Hand. And yeah, nothing much to say on this, just kind of going through the transactions here. Bigger transaction on the negative side, though, the Falcons released Troy Anderson. Another unfortunate move here. Obviously, I think if you're a Falcons fan, you loved Troy Anderson when he was healthy. It's kind of hard to forget the memorable moments that he had. Obviously, 2nd-round pick by the Falcons in the 2022 draft out of Montana State. And absolute legend for his performance against the New Orleans Saints in 2022. Week 4, where he obviously had that crazy pick 6 off the tip drill. And then, not to mention, he also did record a career best 16 tackles in that game. So, legendary performance. And even though that was what we hoped to all be the start of a all-pro linebacker season, it also ultimately turned out to be the end of his career. And what I mean by that is he missed the next 5 games with an injury, because he did leave that Saints game with an injury towards the end of the game. So, missed the next 5 games. He did return for 3 games towards the end of the 2024 season after missing a bunch of time. It's just, he was never healthy, and that's essentially what led to him being cut. It sucks because he missed the entirety of last year, and we just had to sit back and be patient as fans and be like, hey, is Troy Anderson ever going to come back? We thought it was going to be the case this year. Of course, he started out the season on the PUP list, physically unable to perform list, and ultimately that led to his release. So, sucks. The talent was there. However, if you are not healthy, you are not valuable to this team. So, Troy Anderson let go. But other moves to be noted, not necessarily notable moves, but moves to be noted. The Falcons, as of this morning, Tuesday, August 11th, have signed tight end Nick Muse. He comes to the Falcons after several practice squad stops with the Eagles, Cardinals, Rams, and Jets. Falcons have also signed wide receiver Christian Wilkerson, who last played with the Raiders in 2024, just adding depth to that wide receiver room for camp and preseason. Also have signed safety Keidron Smith, who played last season with the Jets and 2024 with the Broncos. And then, of course, the guys we had on the team last year, or in D'Angelo Malone's case, prior to 2025 as well. But Billy Bowman and D'Angelo Malone are obviously 2 guys that are going to highlight the PUP list on the defense. Billy Bowman, a stud last year before that injury. That just, man, that Achilles injury really sucked, because he was a key piece to a really good and young Falcons defense. But he'll be eligible to participate in training camp practices once he's fully healthy. But D'Angelo Malone, on the other hand, he's going to be pretty much required to miss the entire season unless he reaches an injury settlement with the Falcons. So TBD there, but he was a key piece on special teams as well, and he's given the Falcons some good snaps. But I really, really, really want Billy Bowman to come back healthy, and I think that I speak for the entire Falcons fan base when I say that. But let's get to some positive news on the offensive side of the ball. How about that? Jawaan Taylor activated off the PUP list as of Monday, and of course he's looking to be the Falcons starting right tackle, protecting Michael Penix Jr. or Tua's blind side. But speaking of Michael Penix Jr. and Tua is looking pretty good on his 11-on-11 drills in practice, as good as you can for it being practice. Meanwhile, Penix, of course, still coming back from the injury, trying to get healthy, but he's just been limited to, of course, the 7-on-7 series, which he's looked sharp I will say Penix has looked really good on the 7-on-7, so more to come on that later, I promise. We'll dive deeper into the quarterback battle, if you even want to call it a battle, but we'll kind of go everything quarterback related as well. But hey, let's talk about the defense for a second. Let's talk about the defense. Actually, I'm just kidding. We're going to keep talking about the offense because I said this is an offensive podcast. It's time for the offense to get paid, and they did. This past offseason, or, the last couple of months, we secured a lot of key pieces to this Atlanta Falcons offense. And obviously, if you've been keeping up with the team, you know it, obviously. Bijan Robinson, 3-year contract extension worth up to $75 million, featuring $51 million in guaranteed money. The deal made him the highest paid running back in NFL history by average annual value, $22.5 million per year. That's GOAT. That's GOAT status right there. I don't even think we need to have a discussion. Bijan Robinson's the greatest running back in Falcons history. I mean, if he ended his career right now, there would be a discussion, but he's not going to, and there is no discussion. He is the Falcons' GOAT at the running back position. Point blank, period. Obviously, Drake London, 4-year, $141 million contract extension, which includes up to $100 million guaranteed. Worth every penny. Worth every penny. Anyone who says he's overpaid just doesn't watch ball. It's Drake London, man. Drake London was putting up numbers with Desmond Ridder, with Kirk Cousins, with Penix. I mean, he's had a carousel of quarterbacks that's been thrown to him. And yeah, you didn't think I forgot Marcus Mariota and Taylor Heineke, did you? But no, he's been putting up numbers, and he deserves every penny of that contract. He's under contract through 2030, just like Bijan. Give me Drake London, give me Bijan Robinson through 2030 and beyond, please and thank you. But Kyle Pitts was a question mark what we would do with Kyle Pitts, but 3-year, $54 million contract extension, which now includes $36 million in total guaranteed money. This is going to keep him under contract through the 2028 season, so not quite 2030 like Robinson and London, but hey, we'll take it. Keep those core offensive pieces together because the Falcons need it, and we like watching them ball out. So, very underrated signing here, and if you don't even know who this is, you might want to start watching Falcons football, and if you're a Falcons fan and you don't know who this guy is, it's time to take note because it's Matthew Bergeron, man. It's the starting left guard. I was about to say left tackle. I was about to make myself look like an idiot. But he signed a 4-year contract extension worth $96 million, keeping him with the Falcons through the 2030 season. Guy's just been a rock. Came out of Syracuse, had his ups and downs at the beginning, but he has been a cornerstone piece for this Atlanta Falcons offensive line to go alongside, of course, his counterpart at the right guard, Chris Lindstrom. Dare I say one of the best guard duos in the entire NFL. But that's a big keep for the Falcons as they continue to build up their offense for the future. So those are those contract extensions, and I mean, hey, let's keep it coming, man. Let's keep it coming. The Falcons are going to have some money to spend next offseason. So having Robinson, London, Pitts, Bergeron, and, of course, the guys we already have under contract, the rookies that are already under contract, it's an exciting time to be a Falcons fan, I will say. Let's just figure out that quarterback position, and then we'll kind of go from there. But you already know what time it is. I had to bring it back from the season 1 last season. It's mail time because this would not be Dirty Bird talk if I did not get to hear from the Dirty Bird fans. So I've got 3 questions for you. Just answer these 3 questions wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, and I want to hear what you have to say, and I'll feature your answers in my next podcast. So let's get right into it. Which Falcons player is going to have a breakout season? Which Atlanta Falcons player heading into this 2026 season are you looking at saying, oh yeah, the league is about to notice this guy, or the league is about to say, okay, this guy still got it? Now, I'm not saying Bijan Robinson, because how can you have a breakout season when you just posted up 2,300 all-purpose yards? But I'm not even going to give you my answer on that. I got to think about who I think is going to have a breakout season. But while I answer this question here, who do you feel more comfortable with at quarterback and why? I will tell you my answer in about 5 minutes because we're about to talk about the quarterback situation. But who you got at quarterback? I mean, it's not even really a competition right now because Penix hasn't been fully clear for that 11-on-11 drills. But what do you think? Who's going to be our quarterback week 1? Who's going to be our quarterback week 17? Week 18? Anyways, which player needs to step up on defense this upcoming season? It could be a rookie that the Falcons just drafted. It could be a player that had a pretty good 2025 season that's looking to build on a really good 2026 season. But which player needs to step up on defense, especially because we're missing Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr., at least for the foreseeable future. So those are my 3 questions. Drop them in the chat of wherever you're watching or listening, and I want to hear from you because, of course, Falcons fans for life, and this podcast is fueled by you. So now it's time to continue with the Day 11, a little mini recap of training camp. Day 11 being Tuesday, August 11th, I think. 11/11, yeah, sure. So obviously we're getting ready for that first preseason game against the Denver Broncos this Friday, August 14th. And head coach Kevin Stefanski said a plan for playing time could be shared as early as Wednesday, tomorrow, Wednesday, August 12th. So just gotta wait and see there. Obviously, can't clear Penix because he's still on 7-7. He hasn't even been cleared for the 11-on-11 drills yet. So more than likely, we're not gonna be seeing Penix Friday or at all during this entire preseason, so wouldn't count on that. It's going to be heavy Cooper Rush and heavy Jack Strand when it comes to the quarterback position for sure. So obviously, like I mentioned, Tua is healthy, so tomorrow may be when we get to hear if Kevin Stefanski wants to play Tua for any snaps at all during that Friday preseason game against the Broncos. But like I said earlier, Penix has been looking good. I know he's only been on the 7-on-7, but Penix is looking really freaking good. Tua went 7 for 7 during his full 11-11 workouts. Penix went 5 for 8 on his 7-on-7 work. But Cooper Rush finished 5 out of 7. Jack Strand 3 out of 4. Obviously, Penix is the only one that's been limited to those 7-on-7 drills. But we're going to briefly talk about the defense. I was a little premature in my statement there earlier. But Kendall Daniels, Harold Perkins, names that you will definitely be familiar with in this upcoming 2026 season, but both the Falcons linebackers continued to get first-team reps while Divine Diablo is out battling that injury. Now, thankfully, it's not a serious injury, so we do expect Diablo to be back in practice very soon, hopefully very soon. But Kendall Daniels was actually wearing the green dot today at practice, or yesterday at practice, but actually, no, it was today at practice. And things you love to see, awesome. Heck yeah. Diablo is going to be the cornerstone anchor piece of this defense, but you love to see Kendall Daniels and Harold Perkins out here balling with the first team. Obviously, we've got Christian Harris and, other guys who hopefully can step up and fill the void in absence of Jalen Walker. And obviously, we had to see J.D. Bertrand get a lot of snaps last year, which I know a lot of fans are not thrilled about that, but he is on the roster. He is listed on the depth chart at linebacker. So good to see Kendall Daniels. Good to see Harold Perkins. I'm not worried about the linebacking core. Obviously, losing Caden Ellis to the Aints was a pretty big loss. I'm not going to underestimate it one bit, but between Diablo, Daniels, Perkins, Harris, all those guys, they got to prove it on the field, but I'm not worried. I'm not worried at linebacker at all. Other big defensive news, going back to the defensive line. Zach Harrison returned to 11-on-11 drills today, so that's huge. Like I said, I would just love to get anywhere close back to the defense that the Falcons had last year. I don't know if we're going to replicate the sack numbers. Losing Jalen Walker and JPJ is huge. Also not going to underestimate that, but if we can just get somewhere in that range to the same sack number, at least 40, please, that'd be great. But good to have Zach Harrison back. And let's go back to the offense. Obviously, we touched on it a little bit, but let's briefly talk about the quarterback situation. Tua Tagovailoa versus Michael Penix Jr. So is there a competition? Is there a true competition right now at the quarterback position? Short answer, no. And I don't say that because a quarterback has won the job. I say that because Penix hasn't even been cleared for 11-on-11 drills yet. So as of right now, Tua is QB1. Is that what the fans want? Is that what I want? Well, I'll tell you in a second. But I would love for Penix to be cleared very soon. It seems like he is. Kevin Stefanski is hinting at it. He keeps mentioning it. So I would really love for Penix to be cleared soon. I want to see him get back to full action, of course, and get prepared for the season. And I will give you my take. I want Michael Penix Jr. to be the quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons in the 2026 season. You did not draft him 8th overall to be just this backup, just in case. You drafted him to be your franchise quarterback. Yeah, you had Kirk Cousins and just paid him a bag, but you drafted Penix 8th overall. I want Michael Penix Jr. to quarterback the Falcons. And I think I speak for a lot of the fans when I say that, because obviously you could say, hey, let's tank. Let's go get Dante Moore. Let's go get Arch Manning. Let's go get Julian Sayin. That's great and all fine and dandy, but I'll be damned before I look ahead to the 2027 season without putting my faith and trust in at least Tua or Penix. And I'm going to go with Michael Penix Jr. because I think that when healthy, he can make a step to elevate that Falcons offense, because obviously that's been the hindrance of the Falcons since 2022. I'm not even kidding. You give Arthur Smith the teams that the Falcons have had the past 2 seasons in place of Raheem Morris, they make the playoffs at least one of the years. I mean, the quarterback situation between Penix and Cousins in 2024 and 2025 is a goldmine compared to the quarterback situation in 2022 and 2023 with Taylor Heineke, Marcus Mariota, and Desmond Ridder. I mean, Cousins and Penix look like Joe Montana and Steve Young compared to that trio of a quarterback room those 2 years. But anyways, I want to see Penix succeed. I do believe in Penix. He has shown flashes. Of course, that's not enough to say I'm a franchise quarterback of an NFL team, but my faith and trust is in Michael Penix Jr. until proven otherwise, because I just think that if you have Tua as your starter, you can't advance past this season and the next couple of seasons. I think Tua's elite prime franchise quarterback window is past us. Do I think he can go out there and ball out and win games? Yes, but if I'm going to be excited, I'm going to be more excited about Penix than I am Tua. So that's why I'm on the MPJ 9 train. So let's ride. But moving along to the wide receivers. So this is going to be, I guess, another battle, if you want to call it a battle, but this was a big issue for the Falcons last season. Very big issue. Darnell Mooney, injured, not himself. Just wasn't it last season. Drake London obviously missed a little bit of time with an injury on his part. But moving into this season, Mooney's not on the team. Obviously, London, one of the best in the league. We know who the top 4 is going to be. Drake London, Jahan Dotson, Olamide Zaccheaus, Zachariah Branch. Those are your top 4 receivers for the Falcons in 2026. Now, the question comes into play. Who's going to be that 5th receiver for the Falcons? Names include Dylan Drummond, Chris Blair, Vinny Anthony, Keelan Marion, Antoine Wells Jr., Christian Wilkerson, and in my opinion, I think this is just 3 guys competing for that 5th spot, with the other 2 guys going to the practice squad. I do think the Falcons will keep at least 2 wide receivers on the practice squad. So here are the 3 guys we're looking at for that 5th wide receiver spot. You got Dylan Drummond, you got Chris Blair, and you got Vinny Anthony II. So obviously Dylan Drummond, 2 years of playing experience in the NFL, 10 games, 9 with the Falcons, including hauling in 7 receptions for 42 yards. He's entering his 2nd season with the Falcons, so, something to note, team chemistry, whatever you want to call it. Chris Blair, a name Falcons fans know pretty well by now, entering his 4th season with the team, has only ever had 1 career reception for 17 yards, and that came all the way back at the end of the 2024 season. And then the last name I mentioned, Vinny Anthony II. He's a rookie who spent 4 seasons at Wisconsin and may not have put up the flashiest numbers, but last year with the Badgers, he posted the 2nd highest kickoff return average at 27.9 yards in the Big Ten. So 2nd highest in the Big Ten, whatever. It's still great. Not hating, but could also see a lot of time in the return game in the preseason for sure. So who do you think is going to be that 5th receiver? I think it's got to be Chris Blair by now, right? I mean, how many times is this guy going to go through camp and go through preseason and not make the active 53-man roster? I'm rooting for Chris Blair. I think that he has what it takes to be that fifth receiver, but we'll just have to wait and see. But going back to what I said about Vinny Anthony II, obviously the second highest kickoff return yards in the Big Ten. Speaking of returns, let's talk about punts and kick returning, because wow, we saw how horrible the special teams was for the Atlanta Falcons last year, but now we actually have options. And there may already be a clear-cut guy. I think you know who I'm going to say. Obviously, I'll just go ahead and say it. The top choice to be the returner is Zachariah Branch. Obviously, I think that's why, or at least one of the reasons that the Falcons drafted him. Here's a stat that Falcons fans probably already know, even if you didn't know it. And it's that Atlanta finished last in yards per kickoff return at 22.8, not surprising there, and 27th in yards per punt return with 7. Just awful. Not surprised. One of the worst special teams, if not the worst special teams in the NFL last season. We know the Falcons need to improve on the return game. Zachariah Branch is the answer. Now, of course, if for whatever reason there's an open competition and they want to move forward with anyone else, pretty much the only other notable names are going to be Dylan Drummond and Olamide Zaccheaus, as they have both rotated in and out alongside Zachariah Branch during returns at practice. So, but I think we've pretty much solidified Branch as the returner for this team. I'm very interested to see who's returning during the preseason, I will say. I think it's going to be super fun to see a bunch of guys rotate in and out. I'm actually excited about special teams for once. I know it's pretty crazy, right? But staying on the offensive side of the ball, of course, because this is an offensive episode. But right tackle, I mentioned it earlier. Who's going to be the right tackle? Kind of the same thing we just talked about. Probably Jawaan Taylor. Obviously, how did we get to this point of having to sign an unrestricted free agent from the Chiefs and Jawaan Taylor? Obviously, that's because Caleb McGarry retired in the offseason. A huge blow to the offensive line. Obviously, we had just signed him to that 2-year extension, restructured the deal, but here we are, now looking for a new starting right tackle, which is arguably the most important position for this upcoming season, because why? We have 2 left-handed quarterbacks. That's the blind side. Got to protect the blind side. So, obviously, like I said, we signed Jawaan Taylor from Kansas City. He was just taken off the PUP list on Monday, so good to get him back at practice and move him forward with, hopefully being the starting right tackle. But is he the guy to protect Penix's or Tua's blind side? Well, I mean, we quite literally have to see, because we just haven't seen all of the tackles play and participate in camp, and who knows if we're going to see them in the preseason. So we just literally have to see. I mean, of course, it's more than likely going to be Jawaan Taylor, but other options include Wanya Morris, who, funny enough, is also from Kansas City. And the fact, stumbling over the words here, the Falcons actually gave up a 6th-round pick in next year's draft to acquire Morris. So he exited practice over a week ago, but he did return in limited fashion, so he has been at camp and practicing. But other names are Michael Jarrell and Ethan I'm going to butcher it every time. Onianwa. Ethan Onianwa. Sure, close enough. But interestingly enough, Onianwa is a name to watch, according to multiple Falcons sources that have been observing and viewing training camp. So the rookie out of Ohio State, my apologies, is getting plenty of run with the first team guys, and who knows? Obviously, he was out there for Jalen Walker's injury. I don't really know what to expect from the right tackle position battle, if you even really want to call it that, other than it seems like Jawaan Taylor's going to be the guy until he's not the guy. However, it's very reassuring to see that Onion was kind of balling out. Obviously, 7th-round pick out of Ohio State. You don't really expect much from a 7th-round pick. Heck, we just saw Jack Nelson, our 7th-round pick from the previous draft, already get cut. So good for him. Good for him. He's doing what I thought Jack Nelson would have done this offseason and in camp. So props to Ethan there. Anyways, that is the very first episode of the new season of Dirty Bird Talk. I do appreciate you watching the clips, following along, listening along, all of the above. I'm going to drop the questions in the chat of wherever you're listening, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you're seeing this. I'm going to put the questions in the chat, answer them, engage, be a part of the podcast. Like I said, I'm a diehard Falcons fan. I love engaging with other Falcons fans, so let's just keep it rolling. I'll be at the preseason game Friday night against the Broncos. I'll be at every home game. I'll actually be at week 1 in Pittsburgh. Falcons at Steelers, probably wearing this jersey, the brand new white AJ Terrell jersey. So I'm so excited for this season. I'm a delusional Falcons fan, so of course I'm going to be excited for the season. How can you not be? But I'm just super excited to be back on the podcast. It's so fun talking Falcons football. I'm going to try to pump out another episode before the preseason game, but certainly I'll be rolling out a lot of clips and content to keep all of you lovely Falcons fans engaged. But that's been the first episode. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate the support. Check out all my other socials wherever you're listening. I have links posted to every social that you can follow along in all places. Full audio on Spotify, full video and audio on YouTube. So shout out to the Falcons fans. Rise up. Excited to be back doing the Dirty Bird Talk podcast. This has been episode 1. See you next time.